preamble intro, then we'll jump into it. Hey guys, I am live here with John Dwyer. Now, John's an incredible guy. He's actually introduced to me by Steve Sims. You guys may have seen our last interview. Anyways, a bit of background on John. He's came up through the Woolworths Group and worked with some major marketing companies and events in Australia. Then went on to start his own marketing company, and really, I find that the power of what he does is in his system and his way of thinking and the way he's able to come up with incredible offers seemingly at a drop of a hat. Like, I went to one of his events a month or so back now, and what I just found incredible that the guy had so many different ideas. Anyways, I'm going to turn your audio on, mate, so everyone can just speak to you and know a bit more about John Dwyer and what you're all about.
Thank you, mate. That means I owe you about $50 for that big wrap.
It's all true, isn't
it? Thank you very much. Yes, yeah, well, hopefully most of it's true anyway. Look, yeah, I'm in marketing. You're able to stretch the truth a little bit in marketing. Mate, thank you. Yeah.
I want to hear all the dirty stories.
Thank you. Yeah, look, I guess just to sort of give everyone a bit of a rundown on what I stand for, I guess I'm a marketing advisor, but one who specialises in direct response marketing. And I guess the simplest way to put that is marketing that actually is very measurable. And there's so much marketing that's out there in the marketplace, particularly social media, that's just immeasurable, that I tend to preach to people, unless you are Coca-Cola or McDonald's or Nike or Toyota and you can afford to throw money up against the wall and, hope that it's just building a brand. If you're someone who wants to put food on the table tomorrow, then you should consider the alternative form of advertising, which is direct response.
I kind of sense that the old twins every say, talking about people who don't look at the numbers that actually go on behind the scenes.
Yes, I was less than subtle, wasn't I, when I just bagged out social media people? No, look, and I'm not bagging them out. I must say, though, that I have a bunch of clients that come onto my program, and obviously it's direct response driven, who I ask the question when they come on, are you spending money on social media? And they go, oh, yeah, bucket load. And I said, okay, good. Can you tell me what results, you're getting from that? And they just basically, you can hear crickets in the background. They don't know. And they say that their social media consultant is telling them that they have to just get their name, and I finish the sentence for them, out there. And I go, well, that's great, and that's terrific, and you can afford to go down that path if you are, if you have a bottomless pit. But then I will say to them, look, social media marketing shouldn't be any different from the rest of your marketing. It should have a measurability factor to it. And I'm not suggesting for a moment that you shouldn't be in it. You should be in it, but you should put some sort of metrics against it so that you know what's working.
So, tell us a little bit of the background. How do you actually get into this? What's your journey from, I know you started off in the Woolworths Group, what did you actually get there in the first place, and what structured your thinking?
Yeah, good, mate. Back in the 1850, I think it was, I started at Woolworths, and it went from there. I've been in the game for a little while, and I did come through the retail industry in my first instance back in my 20s, and I was fortunate enough to have a national marketing role in the Woolworths organisation. So they are a very good trainer when it comes to retail marketing. And from there, I basically set up my own business, and my own business was called Dynamic Ideas back in the early days, and that's what it was. It was all about providing people with dynamic ideas. Most of these ideas were sales promotional ideas, the likes of the Happy Meal toy for McDonald's. Now, I didn't dream up the Happy Meal toy, by the way, but that sort of thing. I wished I did, yeah, absolutely. And we did a lot of drive-through promotions for the likes of, the KFC and your Red Roosters and your Pizza Huts and people like that. So we did our version of the Happy Meal toy for a number of other fast food chains. And then I got into providing the newspapers with continuity programs. And if you're not sure what that is, it's the sort of thing where you'd give away the rugby league football album or the AFL football album with 2 or 3 stickers on the first Sunday, and then the children had to convince their parents to buy the daily paper for 3 weeks thereafter, clip the coupon, and pay 50 cents for my 1 cent sticker at the shop at the news agency every afternoon. And of course they would complete the album over time. That's called a continuity promotion, which is all about getting people to fall into a repetitive trade pattern. And then after that, all the scratch bingo. So you wouldn't remember at your age group, mate, but back in the 90s and in the early 2000s, newspapers were very heavily driven by scratch bingo games. And that was a very clever way of stimulating repetitive spending pattern with people who are buying newspapers. And it's still done around the world now. I'm not doing it anymore, but for a long while we made a reasonable income out of producing all the continuity and scratch bingo games for all the big newspapers.
Okay. So from that, what was the next kind of step? Because you've done a lot of crazy promotions. How do you get guys like Jerry Springfield to work with you?
No, Jerry Seinfeld. Yep. Jerry Springer was the one that throws midgets around. I don't think Seinfeld does that.
Not in his public life, at least.
No.
How did that come about? What is that allowed you to do promotion that big?
Yeah, okay, look, probably a bit of background so whoever's watching or listening to the podcast, they understand what the Seinfeld reference is all about. I ended up scoring back in the dynamic ideas business. Back in the 90s, I scored the rugby league bubblegum card license. So there's still a lot of kids out there that collect football cards now, but I grew up in an era where, it was big time to collect all the bubblegum trading cards. And I ended up taking it on in the 90s when it was still big, and we were fortunate enough to be around when Tina Turner was doing Simply the Best, which was a big campaign for the rugby league, and rugby league was at a high. It was just before Super League came along, and so I had the rugby league trading card license for a couple of years, and we were able to take that from $2 to $12 million turnover in just 1 year, because when I got hold of it, unlike the confectionery companies, we were a marketer. I just went into Rupert Murdoch's newspapers and said, how would you like 2 million football cards to print out of next Sunday's paper? And 2 million football cards at a cent production cost each would cost me 20 grand, but they would give me $500,000 worth of publicity by saying on TV, get your free footy cards out of Sunday's paper, and then on the Sunday, unless they found Elvis, I was on the front page, get your free football cards. So when I added up the publicity that the newspapers would give us for that giveaway, that relatively, modest investment of mine, 20 grand, I get $500,000 worth of exposure. And guess what happened when the kids got their free two football cards on the Sunday? They would scream to mum and dad, give me $2 so I could go and buy a pack at the news agency. We would sell out of those football cards because of our avalanche marketing techniques. We would sell out of them within a week. Whereas in the old days, the bubblegum company would have them there for the whole season. So we were able to really use this direct response tactics of scarcity and all that sort of stuff to our benefit. And then that sort of got the attention of a few people who wanted to buy the business. And so I actually decided when I heard the Super League was coming along that it might be time to get off the roller coaster at a peak rather than waiting for it to go down. And thank goodness, probably the first time I've ever got my timing right, but I sold at the peak and then we got out of that whole business. And then I set up the business that we have now, which is called the Institute of Wow, and it's basically a coaching advisory business for business owners.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Seinfeld. Seinfeld. You asked about Seinfeld. Yeah, I'm sorry, mate.
That's right.
One of my clients used to be the Greater Building Society, which is a bank here in Australia, and they're what we would call a challenger brand. So they're not like the big four, Westpac and Commonwealth Bank. They're rather small compared to them, but nonetheless, they're a $5 billion business. It's still a big business. And I developed a concept for them in the early 2000s to take people's eyes off the price. Because if it's one thing that we do for our clients in the Institute of Wow, is that we help them to stop price discounting and actually make more money and have more margin. And the way to take their eyes off the price, generally speaking, is to value add or provide a wow factor. And McDonald's do that with their Happy Meal toy. I could ask 100 parents now how much was a Happy Meal toy, but they couldn't tell me because McDonald's have been clever enough to take their eyes off the price with a free Disney toy. And so the whole idea with this building society was that we stopped marketing on interest rates, and we said, you swap your home loan to the Greater and you get a free holiday. And the moment we did that, we doubled their home loans and within 18 months tripled them. And a few years into the campaign, we decided to put a wow on top of the wow factor, and that was Jerry Seinfeld. So we asked Jerry, would he be spokesman for the Building Society? And to our surprise, he said yes. And so for 3 years, Jerry Seinfeld was actually the spokesperson for the Greater Building Society. Can you believe it? He's only ever done 2 other advertising campaigns, and one was for American Express and the other one was for Microsoft. So the Greater was a little bit smaller than these 2 big companies. And at the moment, just a tad bigger. And when Jerry came on board, instantly the Greater Building Society tripled its home loan market share. So it just goes to show you when you put a wow factor on a wow factor of a free holiday, what the result can be.
Okay, my question to you right now is, what was your biggest challenge? Because I know you've had issues with clients and all the fun stuff that everybody who goes through a service provider relationship goes through. What have your biggest challenges been, and what would you do differently if you were to have you go again today?
Look, I think the biggest challenge that I suffer these days, and we have like I'm sure many of the people that you talk to, mate, have a coaching program. So our thing is all about people become part of a coaching program, and we teach them how to actually market their business. And the frustration for me is that when they come on board, I generally, after a Skype call, I put together a 15, 20, 30-page marketing plan for them, and hand that to them on a platter, which I think is pretty valuable given the experience that I've got across a lot of industries. And the frustration for me is a few of them, most of them join the dots, but a few of them continue to pay me money every month and they do nothing with that marketing plan. And I guess that's a frustration. And I think it may be a frustration, well, not maybe, I know it is, for most coaches. It's a bit like the soccer coach that tells the kids, how to kick the ball of a weekend. If they don't do it, he can't get on the field with them. And I've gone from being a consultant where I did go and get Jerry Seinfeld, and I did fly to America with the camera crew, and we produced all the commercials and we put them on TV, and that's what happens when you get paid more money because you're a consultant. But now that I'm a coach where you are charging much, much less money, but providing, if you like, the roadmap, the frustration is, for me, the biggest frustration is you give this pot of gold to these business owners, and a bit like going to the gym in January and not going back again until June, you're not going to lose weight, you're not going to build muscle if that's all you do. With these people, if they don't join the dots and follow my marketing roadmap, they're never going to get the results. And I think, mate, that is the biggest frustration, when you hand someone something that is very valuable, but they sit on their hands.
What is it that makes them make the difference, though? Because is it having enough pain for them to actually take action and say, shit, I actually need to listen to JD now? Or...
I think so. Look, we get our fair share of what I would call life raft clingers, which are not the ideal client because they're looking for a life raft, and you better be David Copperfield, otherwise they're out of town. So it's sort of a responsibility I don't really look forward to be honest. Yeah, so you get your odd one of those, and they come to your seminar, and you know how we work. We basically follow the Anthony Robbins model, where there's a seminar or webinar or whatever, or one of these. And the thing is that yes, you not looking for that sort of client, generally speaking. I mean, if they come on board, we do our best to help them. But if you're their last roll of the dice, it's a lot of responsibility. I think the reason that a lot of people just don't do the stuff that they need to do is pure laziness. And I know that you would be very familiar with Gary Vee, the American guy that drops he would have dropped about 1 million F-bombs by now. Look, in Gary Vee's instance, the jury's out on him for me. I think that he's a very clever self-promoter. I haven't seen a lot of the stuff outside of his wine business that he's done himself, so it's very difficult for me to comment on how clever he is in actually executing things. But what he preaches, I have to say to you, I certainly agree with, and that is that, forget about sitting down and watching Gone with the Wind or whatever the latest, sitcom is tonight. Roll your sleeves up, get on with it. And he's pretty tough in that regard. And I know it seems to be a little bit old school. Look, for goodness sake, just roll your sleeves up, stop whinging and just get on with it. But I have to say that, the main reason I would find that most of these people who don't do anything is simply because of laziness, nothing more. I mean, it's just laziness. It's not like they've not got the roadmap in front of them. They've had an expert. If you call me an expert, they've got the expert to put the marketing plan together. And I'm just bewildered that, that's the hard part. The easy part is just executing it.
Is it laziness, or is it like some sort of mental block that they don't, some other stuff going on, or is it purely that they're cruising?
No.
What is pure laziness?
Mate, look, there is exceptions to the rule. Of course, you can't say 100% of the time it's laziness, but no, I think it's laziness. And in our instance, fortunately, if you ask me of our clients, how many of them fall into this category, I'd say about 15%. So, 85% of the people come on board are pretty good and they follow the dots. Some better than others, but at least they follow the dots as best they can.
They're paying you to feel like they're doing something, or...
Yeah, the 15%, I think, are paying because they certainly know they need assistance, but even when it's given to them, which is very much join the dots. So therefore, I will say to them, look, this is what you should be doing on social media. This is how you should be posting. This is the sort of words and pictures you should be using on Facebook. And here's our Facebook expert that you should contact to get this underway for you. I mean, you couldn't do any more. And then I'll say...
approach.
Yeah, you got it. I mean... Well, and even in my marketing plan, what happens to it is we'll say, look, these are all the things offline you should do, and I'll sketch up what the brochure should look like. I'll sketch up exactly what the letter, well, not sketch up, I'll actually put together what the letter should look like if they're sending out a letter, and so on and so forth. And then in the online world, I'll say, this is what your web page should look like, and I'll sketch it up. These are the components it should have. And then I'll say to them, look, you please find attached a supplier list where there is the copywriter, there's the graphic artist, there's the website designers, and bang, 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 bang. You couldn't give it to them on a silver platter any more than that, and yet still there would be 15% of them. I know I'm having a real bitch over this, but it's frustrating. There's still 15% of them that just say, thank you, I'll pay you every month your marketing fee, because it's a monthly club that, my involvement, and they're sitting on their hands, and you just scratch your head and think, well, I bet you joined the gym in January and now it's June, and I bet you're still paying, but you're not going to the gym.
You can see the frustration in your face, like, you're there, but you're not doing anything. Why are you not doing it? I just want to slap you. So,
yeah.
Are you able to inspire these people to action, or what is it that, or you just got to live with it, or get rid of it?
Yeah, mate. Look, we put a girl on specifically to follow these people up and hold their hands, and it was a complete and utter waste of money on my part, because she would ring them and say, look, JD's just asked me. And by the way, for those who are listening, my name is John Dwyer, but I get JD. Okay, so I also get a few rude names. JD. Yeah, but we won't go into the rude names that they call it. Go something like "Hey, dickhead," So the thing is that's right. I've got lots of them in the advertising game. Of course, I get that. So the thing is that we wasted our time and our money putting a girl on to specifically try and nurture these people through the system. And I think what you just have to understand, I guess, in life is everything's a percentage game, and if it's 80-20, or in my instance it might be 85-15, you just have to accept that. And look, the thing is that when I felt guilty about even continuing to take their monthly payment, and by the way, they get much more than just the marketing plan. They get, fortnightly webinars, and they get access to 3 big events that we hold throughout the year. And there's my own podcasts, and they get access to a gigantic Wow Central library with all of the ideas that I've had over the last 15 years. So therefore, don't get me wrong, they just don't get the marketing plan, and we continue to whack their credit card every month. It's such more comprehensive than that. So therefore, we do still take their payment each month. And I used to feel so guilty with these few people that weren't doing anything. I employed this girl to ring them up and say, look, can we help you anymore? Well, guess what? I found that it was all on deaf ears. And until someone said to me, JD, I know you've come from the consultancy world whereby they're paying you 10 or 20 grand a month, and you feel obliged to make sure that you're doing everything you possibly can to make sure they're executing. In this world, it's a coaching world. And let me ask you this, when you bought your suit from David Jones, did David Jones ring you up a month later and say, JD, are you wearing that suit? And of course they don't. So he actually explained to me that as a coach, the best you can do as coach, you can't get on the field and kick the ball with them. And so therefore you can give everything you possibly can, but understand it's up to them to actually execute your advice. Simple as that.
It's almost hard to kind of letting go a little bit. You're not responsible for the results, but you're going to give them as many tools as possible to achieve that, which...
It is, mate. And look, I think you probably come from the same mindset. You're a few years younger than me, but I'm glad you've got that mindset where you actually want to give advice that's going to bring results for these people. So you do go out of your way to do your best to ensure that they execute these things, but there has to be a line in the sand, because they're not paying me enough money to become a full-time life coach, and that's what they need.
Well, do you have an ascension model to that in your business, or do you purely just...
No, because... Yeah, just purely marketing, mate. I mean, look, not
life coaching, but more, actually becoming a client of yours more than just a coaching client.
Oh, yeah, we do. We have private coaching, which means that we get involved to a larger extent. Those particular clients tend to be the larger, smaller businesses. So, we have a client that was $102 million turnover, a big packaging company, who came on board and said, look, thank you, we understand you've got the coaching program, which is a done with you program, but we want more done for you. And of course, they have to understand there's an extra few dollars when that happens, because you've got to put some more... of course.
Time and energy that you've got to put into it.
So I don't push that very heavily, because there's only a certain amount of hours in every day. So therefore, the private coaching, you can only take on a certain amount of those. But they're the companies who are big enough that want you to actually dig in and just help them a little bit more.
What drives you? Why is it you do this so much?
Yeah, look, mate, I guess over the years, and I'm being serious here, it sounds like I'm going to give you a sarcastic response, but it's not. Things are different now because the kids are growing up. But over the years, I had six children. So therefore, we had six children under 12 at one stage. And when you have six children under 12, your wife can't work. And so therefore, you tend to run at a reasonable pace. So in those days when the kids were, dependent upon your income, obviously that's what drove you. And these days, because the kids are 18 plus now and they're growing up, I think probably, and it sounds corny, I mean, I really put my two fingers in my throat when I hear all these other coaches around the world get on their videos and their websites and go, I'm here because I want to give back. I want to give back. BS, you just want to put money in the bank, you idiot. I mean, don't give me that crap. So it's not the give back thing. I'm not going to give you some corny answer like I want to give back. But I must say that what I do is fun. What we do is marketing and advertising and promotions. I mean,
you are changing lives. If people take your advice on, you really are getting to see them grow, and it is an exhilarating thing.
It is, mate, and I don't know whether you were at our seminar. I know the day that you came to our seminar, you had to leave a bit earlier, but I'm not sure whether the case study came on where I showed a fun park in Melbourne as a result of just implementing one of my 5 strategies. And if you wanted to, I can go through that 5-step system because I think that might be valuable for your listeners. But he just implemented one of those 5 steps that I suggest to everyone that they should put in the marketing program. And that brought in an extra $812,000 profit, not revenue, profit, the first week that he implemented it. And then for the 4 weeks thereafter, an average of $650. So he'd paid me $2,000 that month, and he pulled in $3.2 million that month extra in profit, and not revenue, in profit. So for $2,000 to get back 3.2, I felt pretty good about that.
That wasn't where you literally just stated the obvious, that you just went to his park and just saw that he had the world's biggest slide, but they weren't using that.
Yep. Yeah, it was very, very simple. It's a fun park in Melbourne, and it was a water theme park, and we changed his TV ad from a very sort of folksy little lame TV ad where the little children had letters that spelled his name and they jumped up and down in front of the camera, almost like a romper room TV show. And when I was at his fun park, he happened to mention to me that when we were walking past one of his big slides, which was one of the big ones that comes down the hill, the kids go around a big breakfast bowl and they spit out into a pool at the other end, and it was called Typhoon. And he said to me, look, don't even bring that up. He said, the kids look like they're enjoying themselves, JD, but that was a $3 million investment with a company out of Canada about 12 months ago, and I thought it was going to pack out the park, and it's done nothing more to bring traffic into the park. And I said, gee, that's no good. And he said, yeah, so much for being the longest water slide in the world. Well, of course, that was the frozen moment, like frozen moment. And I said, I beg your pardon, I've just looked at all your old TV ads and all your collateral, and it doesn't say anywhere there that it's the biggest water or longest water slide in the world. And of course his response to me was, do you think that's important? I said, yes, I think it might be. So anyway, we redid his ads with a drone footage of the kids coming flying down. We sped the speed up a little. The kids were coming down a bit faster than what they normally would in the slide, and the ad came on TV. And instead of come to fun fields, it was, we dare you to ride the longest, the scariest, the most thrilling water slide on the entire planet. It's called Typhoon. And of course you hear the screams of the kids going, awesome, 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 and you see all the relevant footage. We put that on TV on Christmas Day. He joined my program on the first week of December. I happened to visit his park and see, it was a nice little water park, but he was missing marketing. And then on Christmas Day, we put this ad on TV. On Boxing Day, he rings me and left a voicemail, which I think I played to you guys at the seminar. And I had to blip out the F-bombs. But basically he said, JD, because he had no clue what I was doing. He just knew that we were doing this marketing direct response stuff. He said, I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it. We've got a 6-kilometre traffic jam down the road, for the first time ever. And he wanted to take the fun park from 1,000 a day up to 1,500 a day. At this point, when he left the message on Boxing Day, he had more than 4,000 people in the park. And he said, I don't know what you're doing, but just keep doing it. And what we had done, I think the interesting part of that is that I preach to people, if you don't have a wow factor in your product, then do what McDonald's do. Put a Happy Meal toy and create a wow factor. Or do what Harvey Norman does, 2 years interest free. Or do what Kellogg's does, a toy in the bottom of the cereal box. But if you have got an organic wow factor, you don't need those artificial ones. And this guy had an organic wow factor because he had the longest water slide in the world. But guess what? He just didn't recognise that he had that organic wow factor. So it's my job to get inside a business and say, you know what? You don't need any made up or artificial wow factor. You've already got an organic wow factor. And an Apple iPhone would be a good example of that.
So business owners, they are so stuck in their business, they don't actually have any clarity of what their business is actually doing and the value that they're creating for their own customers and clients. That it just, you walk in and you're like, oh, that's obvious. Just you use this. It's right in front of you.
Yep. And you know what, mate? That comes with, I guess, most businesses. And I suffer from it in my own business. Don't get me wrong. I'm a bit of a hypocrite from time to time, telling everyone else what to do. And sometimes I'm the plumber with the leaky pipes. I mean, we all have to admit
when I came to your thing, I was really looking at your whole process. Okay, so he's doing this. Yeah. He actually sent a text message. He actually followed up with his customers. That's impressive. So I know so many coaches appreciate it, but they never actually have any of the stuff implemented themselves. Again,
mate, and look, I wish I could claim infallibility, but that's not the case. I mean, there's many times I look at myself and go, oh God, I'm the plumber with the leaking pipes. So we all fall into the category which I call store blindness. We all become store blind because we're in our business all the time, and we need someone from the outside to come in and give us a kick up the backside. And I think that's a major part of the reason that people get good value out of us, is that we walk in and we will say, do you know, I mean, the Woolworths manager trips over the box at the door every morning until the head office guy comes out from Woolworths and says, do you know there's a box at the door that you trip over every morning? And he goes, oh, shivers, I never noticed it was there. And so therefore, I think part of the value of me getting involved in businesses, and it would be the case, I suspect, with most business coaches, is that they actually are coming from a third-party perspective, and they're saying to you, look, do you realise you've got this, and this? You're not milking it. You're not making sunshine out of that. And I think to a large degree, most people just do the same old every day, and they become store blind.
I've got two kind of questions I want to take up on respect of your time, but can we talk a little bit about what you said, mentioned your own mentors and things like Genius Network, etc., and then can we actually move on to talking about the traction formula and your wow factor, because I think that's really what people are here for, to actually see how it's done. So can you tell me a bit more about how you evolve yourself at this stage in your business, and obviously Genius Guys is part of that?
Yeah, good, mate. Look, this seminar coaching game was relatively new to me a few years ago, because I was a consultant up until then, which meant that you charged a fair whack and you would have a dozen clients per year, because if people were paying you $10,000 or $20,000 a month, that's the way it goes. And Parramatta Leagues at the time was a big client, and they would be paying $10,000 or $11,000 a month. I had Majority, I would have the likes of your Blockbuster Videos. The Greater Building Society was tens of thousands of dollars a month, and so therefore it was a full-on consultancy advisory system. And now in the last 4 years, what I've done is created a coaching program whereby I can provide my intellectual property for a lot less. It's normally now a couple of grand a month for a business to come on board. And what we do is that we do this marketing done with you, not done for you. And for that size business, what they're wanting is the intellectual property. They want the real value out of what's inside my head and my filing cabinets and what I've got on my websites. And then they just want to be told how to do it. And as I said, 85% go out and join the dots and everyone's happy. But what I found is that because this was rather new to me in terms of being a coach rather than a consultant, I needed to hang around with the cool kids at lunchtime who were actually doing this. And, they're out there, the likes of the Mal Emerys and the Dale Beaumonts and all these people that have been doing this for longer than I have. So therefore, I joined a few of these clubs to help fast-track my knowledge on how to put together a coaching program. And fortunately, I was able to, if you like, cherry-pick the best parts of each one of these and put them into what we call now our masterclass program. And one of those, in the last 12, 18 months, is the guy in America called Joe Polish. And he has a thing called the Genius Network. And what happens with that is that you pay $25,000 US a year, and it ends up costing me 50 or 60 because I've got to go back to the 3 events, of course, and pay for your accommodation and your airfares. And $25,000 US is not $25,000 Australian, of course. And it's been good. From a content point of view, I have to be honest and say that I'm a bit disappointed. I don't think the content is anything to write home about, because many times when I've been at these 2-day events, you've got a lady up speaking for an hour and a half on green juices and why green juices are healthy for you. And I don't think that's going to make a significant difference in most of our businesses. So I don't know that the actual, and I'm being absolutely open and honest, and I'd say this to Joe Polish if you're sitting across the line, the content I think is a bit loose. I think it could be structured a lot better, because it seems to me that whoever puts their hand up to speak out of the class just gets up and speaks, where I think I'd be a little bit more focused on who I would allow speak. Yeah, but what it is, it's called the Genius Network for a reason, and that is the main emphasis of this is networking. And every possibility. The first one I went to, Anthony Robbins was in the room. So therefore, that's the sort of caliber of people that you have in these particular 2-day events, and that's really why it's worth joining. Is not so much for the content, but certainly who you might be brushing shoulders with.
I think it's value of any relationship is who you know and how you're able to add value. Just talk to them, and you can't help but not grow when you're around people.
Yeah, well, look, what Joe does is he invites you to put your hand up and be a guest speaker, and they give you 10 minutes. That's all it is. And that's, I guess, the criticism that I would make of it is that, any clown can put their hand up and they get a gig to talk for 10 minutes, and you wish that they only had 1 minute. So in my instance, I got up and did I got up and did my wow factor stuff and basically showcased my little system, which we'll talk about in a second. And to give you an idea that the investment is worth it, I had a guy come up to me in the pharmacy game, drugstores they call them in America, and he said, listen, I love this. How much for private coaching? And I'd like you to help me with my 9 or 10, I think it was, drugstores. And that would have paid for my membership 2 or 3 times over, bang, instantly. And so therefore, regardless of what I might like to think about the content not being rich enough, the fact that you are networking with that caliber of, sort of business person just shows that it's worth being part of it. And I would say that to a lot of people. I'm not a great fan of chambers of commerces, by the way. I think most of them are a complete waste of time. And they're not run properly. But if you are given the opportunity to join a network of business owners of a certain caliber, then I think that's a smart move. You want to hang around people who actually you're going to be able to interact with and share proper ideas. Whereas with the Chamber of Commerce, you do get a lot of would-be's if they could-be's. You get a lot of wannabe startups. And I'm not having a shot at startups. What I am saying is that with the Chamber of Commerce is not an environment where they actually have pre-qualified people. Anyone walks in, and you could be sitting next to someone who makes garden gnomes and sold 4 garden gnomes last year, and you just, at the breakfast table, want to pour petrol over your head and light a match.
Networking. I always refer them as entrepreneurs. It's great. You've got an idea. What are you actually doing with it now? Yeah. I could. Yeah. Well, look, probably not.
And mate, look, I at the seminars that we hold, of course, and you can't stop people from coming in, but we target a particular style of entrepreneur and business because we realise that there's a better chance of us closing them into our marketing program. But I get frustrated from time to time when someone comes up and wants to spend half an hour with you and ask you what should they do, and you go, well, what do you mean, what should you do? And they go, look, I want to start a business, but I don't know what sort of business. And I go, oh no, look, you've got to go and find someone else. I'm not the guy for that. When you've got a business and you've got a target, you've got a target audience, or you've got a product or service, then come back. But I'm not here to put the Uncle John arm around your shoulder and tell you what to do in life.
There's a million. If you look around you, there's a million and one things you inspire. Just pick one and bloody do it.
Dead right.
So I say, for any question I have for you before we go into attraction stuff is, how did you actually get those big clients? When you were a consultant yourself, what is it that makes you stand out from 100,000 other consultants?
Mate, look, the same question is asked, how did I get Jerry Seinfeld? And before that, Michael Jordan, and before that, Princess Di, and Paul Hogan, a whole bunch of people over the years that I've got to do things. Sent an email, or in the olden days, good old fax, followed up by phone call. And I know that sounds too simple to be true, but pretty much when people say to me, I'm going to join 1,000 of these network groups because I want to network with people. Don't get me wrong, I understand that networking can fast track things, but you know what, there's an old-fashioned way, and that is simply knocking on the door, sending an email, sending, in the old days, a fax, and following up with a phone call. So as you picked up more of these clients like News Limited or 7-Eleven or Westfield or any of these sorts of places, yes, they came knocking on your door because you had a reputation. Yeah. But in the early days when I got my first scratch bingo game with News Limited, I'll never forget it. I just sent off a note, and it would have been by fax, I guess, in those days. to the promotions manager of News Limited and said, look, we have a pretty clever bingo format here that you may not have seen before, and this will stimulate, circulation because it does this, 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 and this. Would you like to talk about it? And the next day I get a phone call, then I have a meeting, and then we pick up a $100,000 job. And that's it. And that's the way it works. And, really, I know this sounds really corny, and I'm going to sound like my own father, God rest his soul now when I say this, but with all of my 6 kids who are 18 and into their 20s, I've said to each one of them throughout their uni years, look, if you want a restaurant job or cafe job to have your drinking money for the Friday, Saturday night and you want to save up and buy a car, then what you should do is not look through seek.com or go through any of these recruitment agencies. Just simply find a restaurant that you think you'd be nice to work at and send a letter off to them and volunteer your services for a week for free. And they look at me like I've come from Mars, because Gen Ys do not like doing anything for free. I've understood. And I go, no, just do that. Yeah, do that and you will get paid. And they go, what do you mean? You just said I'll do it for free. I said, no, you'll say that you'll do it for free, but you will be so knockout, you'll wow them so much with your over delivery that at the end of the week, they'll be feeling guilty not to pay you. And every single one of my kids who have done that, and I think out of the 6 of them, 4 of them have done it, every single one of them has got the job, bang, straight away. Who's going to say no to a kid that says I'll work for free for a week? And at the end of that week, they've always been paid and they've been put on long term. And I know it sounds really old-fashioned, but if you want a gig, that's the sort of way to get it. Nobody can say no to someone offering them something valuable for free.
No one does it. No one... Resume, standard, stock, template, I have no personality. Hey.
Yep.
I'm here.
Yep.
Let's talk.
Yep. Dead right. And you know what, you and I, because we're muck around in the online world these days too, we know that the free report is irresistible for people who are warm prospects on our website. And the reason that we give out the free report or the free video, whatever it may be, is to collect data. Well, it's no difference in the real world, in the offline world. Just offer your services for a week. That's all it has to be. My 21-year-old is interested in photography. And he's done his photography course at uni. He's just about at the back end of it. And I said to him, just set your own web page up so that you've got some history there. And then just simply send out some resumes. But with those resumes, send out to the photographer that you'd be willing to work for a fortnight for free. And he sent it out. He got bombarded with offers. Some better than others, because some would say, look, can you come in and just look after the photocopying and stuff like that, which was not going to turn him on. But others who were wedding photographers or portrait photographers said, look, come on in, and what we'll do is get you involved in the photography. And eventually, you know what it does? It swings the pendulum from him having to knock on doors to actually having half a dozen that he can choose from. And he ended up taking one, working there for supposedly free for 2 weeks. He ended up getting paid because he over-delivered. He made sure he was the first in and the last to leave every day, and said yes to everything, no matter whether it was to take the garbage out or to actually set the cameras up. And guess what? Got a part-time job now whilst he's still doing uni. Easy.
You know what actually happened whilst I was at your event? You kept bagging on our Gen Ys, and myself and the girl I was with were just like...
You guys are easy targets, I'm telling you. Because you've been spoilt by baby boomer parents and who didn't have quite the privileges that you have. And and I'm going to really give you a rap here, you are the smartest generation the planet has ever seen, because you grew up with your 2 fingers on a keyboard. So therefore, you guys have had access to Google. When I grew up, you had to get your parents to spend $2,000 on Encyclopedia Britannicas and take up half a wall of the damn house. In your instance, you've been smart since you were 2 or 3 years old. Yeah, you got all this opportunity, but because everything...
There's opportunity available to us if we decide to use it.
That's right, yeah, that's right. And I know, again, I sound like the old fart telling Gen Ys, and you should have seen the old days before electricity, But the thing is that, you guys have got everything in front of you if you apply it. And you are, I know that you're an entrepreneur, so you're doing it, but many aren't. They've got all this wonderful opportunity in front of them, but they've got the attention span of a goldfish.
Not just that, I think you mentioned it before we got on this call, just the framework for thinking there. You've been taken through a system of schooling for 12 plus years that teaches you to be a robot. You're not supposed to go and think for yourself. Anyway, I could get into that. Let's skip that for now and tell us about your attraction formula, because I think that's what people really want to know. How do you...
Good. Okay, the wow factor attraction form. By the way, that other thing was called potential problem analysis, and all it is that the people that work with me these days, I put them through a mini version of what Woolworths put me through many years ago, and that is just predicting all the potential problems that might happen before they happen and just be ready for it. And the joke that you and I were having before this call started was that, oh, do Gen Ys do that, or do they just want it instantly? So I was giving you an example. If I was opening up a shopping centre in the old days for Woolworths, and I had a big celebrity cutting the ribbon, they'd say, well, what if it rained? And I go, oh, well, we'll put an umbrella over. He said, no, you wouldn't. You need to have a canopy, and you need to have security there so that people won't slip over in the wet. Oh, okay. And then they'd say, what if there was an earthquake? And I'm going, oh, how far is this going to go? But the point was, as ridiculous as that sounds, it was called potential problem analysis, so that everything you did in your business life, you actually thought through all the potential problems or catastrophes could happen, and you had a plan in place for all of them. And I must say that that's something which my little crew around me, we're not a huge business by any means, but the half a dozen people that are around me, they hate me for it at the moment, because I'm forcing them to go through all those potential problems and make sure they got, at our events are relatively modest in terms of organisational things, but nonetheless, what if the microphone goes down? What if the stage isn't there? What if the lights go out? What if the projector doesn't work? We've got to back up, and of course they're sick of me saying this, but I'll tell you what, if at one stage these Gen Ys and Xs that work for me go out and set up their own business, I would suspect they're going to ring me up and go, you know what, thank you for putting us through that nightmare of the potential problem analysis. Yeah, mate, the 5-step program is really simple. It's a client attraction formula, which I have a wanky little name called the Wheel of Wow, simply because it's in a little pizza pie wheel. And we just broke it up into little 5 pizza pie pieces because it's easier for people to remember things that are only 3, 4 or 5. You can imagine at this point of this podcast, if I said to your listeners, I've got a 32-point system, they go, oh no, kill me. Just kill me, right? So it's really simple. Number one is look for your identify your most profitable customer, and then look for more people who look like him. Simple as that. So don't tell me your target audience are all women. If you know that you're an upmarket hairdressing salon and your most profitable customer are women 35 through to 60 who drive a Mercedes, they live in the eastern suburbs, and they have a husband who's got $500,000 a year coming in, they're the women that you've identified as being your most profitable customer, and therefore you go out and look for more people who look like them. Simple as that. And I've often said that, I've got a lot of clients who fall into that category where they're looking for upmarket customers. I just tell them to have a flannelette shirt alert at the door, and if they see a flannelette shirt and thongs, they call security. Okay. Because you don't make a lot of money out of poor people, make money out of rich people and give it to poor people if you like. That's a wonderful thing to do, but you don't make much money out of people on the Centrelink here. So number 2 is create a wow factor and take their eyes off the price. The last thing that any one of us in business want to be doing is marketing on price, unless your business is built for that, which is Walmart and Kmart and Big W. And so therefore that's all about that wow factor Happy Meal toy that I speak of, Kellogg's toy in the box and Harvey Norman's do usage is free. I often say to, let's use hairdressers. Okay. And let's say if I say to a hairdresser, if you were to put a 10% off sign outside your door, do you think many people would come into it? And of course the answer in the Groupon days that we live in is no. Why would I expect that 10% would do anything? So I say, well, how would you like to devote that 10% to a value add and have the potential to double or triple your business? And they go, well, how would that work? And I say to them, well, what about every time someone spends $50, they get a movie point? And then when they get 6 points, which is 6 times $50 over a period of a month or two, whatever it might be, they get 2 tickets to the movies, 2 cinema tickets at $15 each, multiplied by 2 is $30. $30 as a percentage of the $300 that they've spent is 10%. And that will be a much more powerful draw card than a sign outside their window in the hairdressing salon saying 10% off. And that can be used over and over and over again. That's all we did with the Building Society when we gave away the free holidays. We sort of slightly lifted the interest rate because we took their eye off the price, which meant that at the end of the day it wasn't costing the Building Society as much as what you might think. We took away the 1% honeymoon rate because that was pretty bland. Every other bank was doing that. And we gave away a free holiday. And for 10 years, that Building Society was able to promote home loans without once mentioning an interest rate.
I still can't believe what you said there about no one else taking the offer and running with it.
Yeah. You know why? Because, the thing is that most of the competitors out there were suffering from that disease you heard me mention at the seminar.
My podcast isn't exactly the cleanest, so go and say it, mate.
Well, most business owners out there suffer from dickheaditis, and that dickheaditis, in terms of the banks, they saw what was happening with the Greater Building Society. This little mouse was, stealing a lot of market share from the big four banks. Do you think one of them woke up and thought, you know what, giving away a free holiday is not that hard? Like, there's not a huge barrier to entry. You don't have to be Einstein to go along to a travel agent and get some holidays. No one copied it. And the thing that I say is that if you're a lawn mowing company and you decide to put a wow factor value add on by saying, every time we mow your lawns, Mrs. Smith, I'm just going to get my squeegee out and actually clean your windows. And she's just going to, oh, darling, you are so wonderful. There'll be no one else that mows my lawns that would ever do that. Guess what? She's right. No one else will follow you. No one else will do that. And it's so easy. You know what? If you're a car mechanic and when they come to pick up their car, you've not only washed and vacuumed their car, but you put a box of Cadbury milk tray chocolates on the passenger seat, guess what? The car mechanic down the road will not do it because he's a dickhead. The thing is that this wow factor stuff, it's so open to everyone to use, but only 5% of businesses around the world use it. The point is this direct response marketing is only used by Danos Direct and a few other businesses around the world. And what I'm saying to your listeners and to any business owner, for God's sake, pull your finger out and use this direct response stuff, because you will be out there on your own. No one else will copy you because they're dickheads.
I think
so that's
that stuff you're saying, it's, you call it wow, but really it's just simple things like, what experience would you like as a customer, and why would you stay with someone?
Common sense. And look, I was speaking at a conference last night in front of pharmacists, a whole bunch of chemist owners, okay? And they are really worried very much at the moment because they've got an Uber. They've got an Uber in their industry. Do you want to take a stab at who that Uber would be in the chemist industry?
Chemist Warehouse.
Yep, Chemist Warehouse, okay? So Chemist Warehouse is sending a lot of chemists broke. And chemists, guess what they're trying to do stupidly? They're trying to take Chemist Warehouse on price. They're not going to win. That'd be like the hardware store down the road trying to sell a wheelbarrow cheaper than Bunnings. It's not going to happen, right? And so therefore, last night at this particular event, I showed them how they could take their customers' focus off the price. In fact, do anything but market on price. And they said, how? I said, put in an unbelievably gold-plated barista quality coffee machine, and then give all of your prospects in the 5 to 10 kilometres around your chemist via a letterbox drop a beautiful gold card that looks like it comes from American Express, and it gives them a free coffee once per day whenever they want for the rest of their life. Do you think Beryl and Esme, who are now swapping to go down the road to Chemist Warehouse, might think about coming back because when they get their prescription from your place, they got a nice little lounge and coffee table. They just give the little card and get it zapped by the lady behind the chemist. She makes their coffee for them. You don't want them to burn themselves, okay? But it's not the 7-Eleven coffee machine. It's the Rolls-Royce coffee machine that they can lease for, wow, a whole $150 a month. And they give them a little piece of Madeira cake and a beautiful barista quality coffee whilst they're waiting for their scripts. Do you think they're going to go to Chemist Warehouse? Not a chance. And that was one of just a whole bunch of, things that I gave the pharmacist last night. And at the end of it, I must say, I felt like I was Justin Bieber. I got mobbed by these bloody chemists. And they all said, how do we get this SHIT? How do we get this wow shit, And I said to them, well, you know what, join the program and I'll show you how to do it, of course. But no one does it. The thing is that in last night's presentation, I showed a plate of cut up strawberries with the chocolate warm fondue. And I said to them that in the hotel that I booked in last night in Melbourne, it was, that I had my door knocked 5 minutes after I checked in with someone from the hotel dressed in their uniform saying, oh, Mr. Dwyer, we know you could have chosen any hotel in Melbourne. Thank you for choosing ours. Here's a beautiful chocolate fondue with strawberries and it's on the house. And everyone's jaw dropped. And I said, yes, and so it should, but I'm afraid that's BS. It never happened. I made it up. And the reason I made it up was to, highlight to you how easy would that be. And it would have cost them $1.50. I paid $300 and something for the hotel room. Charge me $301.60 if you want to, but give me the chocolate coated strawberries. And next time when I go to Melbourne, do you think I'll ever look at the price? No, I'll just stay at the chocolate strawberry hotel.
I've just had Scott Ebsworth comment here. Go JD, he taught me everything I know.
Who's that?
Scott Ebsworth, I think he's your friend.
Yeah, Scotty. Scotty's a great mate, and Scotty's done very well for himself. He used to work for me, a million years ago when he was just in his late teens, I guess, and Scott's gone on to become a very qualified and very sought-after producer for infomercials. and so he's worked for the TVSN and a whole lot of sort of other people, and he's the best in town when it comes to putting together infomercials. So thanks, Scott. Good on you, mate.
I think that's we've just gone through the form, haven't we? Did I miss a spot there?
Mate, I'll give you. I know we've got to wrap up, but just very quickly after the most profitable.
Take time.
You sure? I don't want to
take time. It's all right.
I don't want to bore your listeners shitless, but number one, identify your most profitable customer, look for more like him. Number two, basically, create a wow factor to take their eyes off the price. And Scotty Ebsworth is absolutely aware of all of that, because if you look at all of the infomercials that he puts on daytime TV and so forth, it's always going to have a bonus if you act by a particular time. So therefore, what Scott is very good at is time sensitivity and scarcity. So there will be only 500 of these. You better hurry while stocks last, or it's only available until Friday at 5 o'clock, that sort of thing. The third thing in this Wheel of Wow marketing program that I've got is all about giving them a problem and providing a solution. And the best example of that would be Jenny Craig. Are you overweight? And of course, go on my dietary program and you look like Miranda Kerr within 4 weeks. And another example would be Nurofen and Panadol. And that's all about making sure that, you get rid of the headache in 10 minutes. In the old days, Nurofen and Panadol used to tell you and me that we've got paracetamol and we've got codeine, and we don't care. I don't care if you've got cocaine in it. I want my headache gone in 10 minutes. And so now you see the little clock going around in the corner of the TV screen showing the lady when she takes it, it goes down into her tummy, bumps back up into her head, and within 15 minutes, headache's gone, and all of a sudden she's got blush and lippy and she's so much more attractive.
All right.
Okay, so that's problem solution. That's very important. Give your prospects a problem, then give them a solution. And again, Scotty would be very familiar with that because of all the infomercials. It's based on problem solution. Number 4 is fix your website. It's the director of first impressions these days, and for most people, they have an awful, woeful, disgusting website, and they don't have any of the inclusions they need. Don't tell me you're one of them.
No, mine's actually really good at the moment. I'm trying to get other people to change it. I'm just looking at, I get sent sites every day like, how are you still in business?
Yeah.
I can see the pain in your face.
Look, the thing is that most of the people that come on my training program, we say to them the very first thing they should do is either create a website or landing page if they don't have one, because in 2016 that's what you need, or if they've got one, just fix it really fast. And we've got a very
process.
Yeah, we've got a process they go through. And it might be worth just explaining to people what they should have. Number 1, they need to have a problem solution headline or a benefit driven headline. Number 2, they need to have a welcome video in this day and age.
Show them. You can actually share your screen on Skype and show them what you think is
Look, I'll tell you what I will do. I'm not set up for that just at the moment, but I will show you a couple of layouts there, okay? So that there happens to be for Signorama. Pretty familiar with Signorama. They're a big chain of sign shops around Australia. And what I'm saying to them is that, look, actually that's not probably, give me 1 second. Yeah, I'm just trying to pick one.
Man.
I'm trying to pick a sample that would actually suit most of your audience. Okay. This happens to be a first aid training facility, okay? So they're actually going out and talking business. Yeah, I will, but
You're right. Good.
Get off my back, would you, mate? Yeah. So it's a first aid training place. Okay, so that's the headline there, where I'm basically saying you should, as a business owner, get your staff trained up in CPR. Because if something was to happen in your restaurant or on your premises, in your building, and you don't have people trained up, then you're going to feel terrible about losing someone's life. And you'll see there's a problem solution headline, then there's a welcome video, and then, if you don't mind, I have to turn it around here, choose your training preference. So we give them what we call a Macca's menu board. And if that was an accountancy practice, the Macca's menu board would be, are you interested in self-managed super? Are you interested in tax minimisation? Are you interested in wealth creation? Are you interested in self-managed, whatever, 4 or 5 options. And not many people do that. And I think that for a lot of people that have got varied services or products, think about having a Macca's menu board on your webpage. And then what we do is a free report. You see there, the free report is, I forget what that one is, the 3 big mistakes businesses make when choosing a training program, basically CPR training program. Then we have video testimonials, and then we have the 3 biggest benefits, and then we have a call to action. The things that you really do need is a benefit-driven headline, a welcome video, a free report so that you capture data, and then what you need is video testimonials, at least 2, but possibly 3 or 4. Because if you just keep your video testimonials to your video testimonial page, guess what? Hardly anyone goes there. We've done the heat mapping. We know who goes to your testimonial page, you. So therefore, if you've got some fantastic video testimonials, pick the 2 or 3 that are good and really good and put them on your homepage. And you know, mate, with what you do for a living, the horrific bounce rate that most businesses suffer from, but they don't even know what a bounce rate is. So therefore, the bounce rate is the percentage of people who come onto your boring website and then bounce, because in the old days, they would have peeked through the front door of your shop, closed it and ran away because you bored them. Well, you're boring them at the moment. If you've got a 60%, 70% bounce rate on your homepage, you know that you're boring. So that's why you need all these sorts of things to make sure that you actually, well, you're cured from dickheaditis.
I will add to that though, a lot of people who may not actually have as bad a bounce rate as they think they do, if your settings are done right. So if you include time on page as a factor of for this bounce rate, it's going to change it. But that's just a little aside.
True, because you might have a fantastic and quite a long homepage, and if they're bouncing, that's one thing. But if you've kept them on there for 4.5 minutes, you've probably done half your job anyway. So that's that, mate. And then the last thing of the Wheel of Wow 5-step program is repetitive trade. And you can never, ever really stimulate repetitive trade properly unless you collect something that starts with D and it's 4 letters, and you would finish that by saying?
Data.
You got it. And if you don't have a free report or free download or something on the homepage of your website, then you're mad, you're having a dinner party, you don't know who came. And I would have given you some examples that day of people who are suffering from extreme chronic dickheaditis. And that would be just about every offline business out there right today. If I could ask anyone on this call who has ever been to a restaurant in the last 6 months and spent $100 or $200 and has ever been asked for your contact details? Nobody. And guess what? There were 84,000 people at the NRL Grand Final, and they don't know who was there. Ticketek do, but not the Rugby League. There was 100,000 people at the Melbourne Grand Final. Likewise, they don't know who was there. And you know that if I was running McDonald's, I would sack their marketing manager today, because 1.7 million people will go through to McDonald's in Australia today, and they will not have a clue who any one of them was.
You were actually really surprised me about that now, because even though they've got those digital machines, they still don't actually collect any info. Like, they're doing digital ordering right in front of you. They're collecting you, putting your digits and doing all that stuff, but they still don't collect anything.
Mate, and look, the gold logie for morons has to go to the theme parks on the Gold Coast, because unless you're a member of their VIP club, and I admit that they've got a few people on that, but if you're a walk-in, which most people are, they ask you at Movie World what your postcode is. And I know over the years when my kids wanted me to take them when they're a bit younger to a theme park, and we had guests, because I live on the Gold Coast, we have guests from Sydney, and we'd go to the theme park. It was pretty mandatory. So you go to Movie World, and the little 17-year-old girl in the little box would say, as I'm getting the tickets for $4 million, she'd say, oh, can I have your postcode? And I go, well, yeah, it's 427, whatever. And I said, but why do you want that? And she said, oh, just because we want to know where you came from. I said, well, that's not going to tell you where I came from. Why wouldn't you ask for my email, my mobile number, so you could text me, and even my real snail mail address? And then she said, look, excuse me, I'll have to call security if you don't move on. I just work here. So anyway, the thing is that, water. Well, mate, no, she wouldn't be expected to want to. Anyway. She's there for, in the middle of uni doing a casual job, but you can go into Bunnings today, they won't ask who you are. You can go into Baker's Delight, Michelle's Patisserie, Woolworths, Coles. You can go anywhere you like in the offline world today, and they won't give a crap who you are. The amount of money that's been left on the table is incredible. And I will leave you with one last sort of case study, which I think is pretty powerful. There's a restaurant client of ours in Melbourne called the Lobster Cave, and he's the only restaurant in the world that's full 100% every night of the year. And what we did is we encouraged him to stop his $500,000 worth of advertising on Melbourne radio and the Herald Sun newspaper. And we said to him, look, why don't you do this? Why don't you offer your waitresses 50 cents for every name and contact details that they get of anyone who comes into the restaurant, not just the person paying the bill, but everyone. And so therefore he collected thousands and thousands. He's up to 50,000 now. This is some time later. But in the beginning, he had thousands and thousands. And for the first time ever, he could walk in at lunchtime and say to his secretary, Cheryl, how many people of 130 seats do we have booked for tonight? and she'd tap the computer and go, oh, look, we're half full, we've got 60 or 70 booked. He said, we'll send out one of JD's text messages, because I gave him a template of a number of text messages, and she sends that out, and it would be a lobster tail for two, meal deal tonight for $68. You don't leave until you spend $200, by the way. This is an expensive restaurant. A bottle of spring water is like $20. So it is really a wow factor to get them in, and then they upsell. So the dinner for two for $68, lobster tail, that'll go out via text message to 1,000 of his many thousand, and she will come back within 15 minutes, not tomorrow or a week or a year after building a brand. 15 minutes after she sends that text message out, she'll come back to him and say, we're full. And if we're not full, she says, we've got 20 seats to go, he'll say, send out another 500 text messages. And bang, every single night of the year is booked out, the only restaurant in the world, because he's not a dickhead.
It's incredible.
Pretty simple.
Like, when you say something like that, you think that, okay, one person does it, everyone's going to just flock and start doing it.
No. Yeah, because the thing is that less than 5% of businesses anywhere in the world use this direct response stuff. And if Scotty Ebsworth's still watching this, I'm sure he's nodding his head right now, because he understands the direct response game, being in the video TV production business for infomercials. But that's the case. And look, do you need to be what a lot of people would consider infomercials to be a little bit down market and corny? Some of them are, some of them are not. No, you don't. Because if I was running the Palazzo Versace hotel on the Gold Coast during winter, instead of dropping my prices by 50%, what I would do is say to people from Melbourne and Sydney, look, it's a bit warmer here on the Gold Coast during winter. What we'll do is a special deal for you. We'll pick you up from the airport in a stretch limo, and then what we'll do is we'll give you your own personal butler service for the weekend, which means they've got a couple of butlers in the hotel that you might ring up and get your shoes shined once or twice, and then you get sick of it. And what we'll do is give you tickets to the Jupiter show on Saturday night, and also tickets to a theme park. That'll cost them nothing like 50% off, and it'll stop them from taking their brand from the penthouse to the shithouse without taking the elevator. So when you drop prices and you are the Palazzo Versace, guess what that does to your brand? Crazy. You got it. So therefore, the direct response mentality to put together an offer like that for the Palazzo Versace or for a David Jones, as long as it's upmarket and it's done within, I guess, the parameters of the target audience, then it doesn't come across corny. It doesn't come across like you might think direct response comes across normally. It is still direct response, but you actually have an execution which makes it look like David Jones.
Ultimately, you're taking care of your customers' needs and what they want to be, how they want to be treated.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I've got a client that came on my program this morning. I held an event last week and they've just signed up today, and they're a private hospital. And their aim is to attract top-level surgeons to use their wonderful, newly renovated private hospital with all of its bells and whistles and facilities. That's one target audience. And the other target audience is to attract people who want to, basically have their operation in a nice hospital. And in the first instance, which is the, $1 million a year surgeons, they said to me, look, we want to come on board, but we just want to be absolutely clear about the fact that we need to be sort of using a message to market match mentality for these surgeons. They are very wealthy surgeons, and if we're going to be inviting them to use our hospital facilities, we want to make sure that it doesn't look corny. I said, no, trust me, no problems at all. We will just make sure that the correspondence and the literature that we put together, both online and offline, for those surgeons looks like it's Palazzo Versace. And it's what I call message to market match. And the fact of the matter is, if your audience is Palazzo Versace or David Jones, then you make sure that your communications are up here. If it's Big W, then the communications be accordingly put together.
It's got another message from Scott here. The trouble is business owners don't listen to people like JD. They are scared of ideas out of the box. Yep,
Scotty's right. Yeah, Scott's right. And the thing is, Scott, if you're still there, mate, is that what I've found is in the sort of world that I live in now, which is providing these coaching programs for business owners, fortunately, those who step up to the mark for a couple of grand a month, which means around 25 a year to be paying me, because that's it's still cheap with what they're getting, but by the same token, it's still a commitment. Yeah. Fortunately, 85% of them do actually take notice, because they've got some hurt money in there, which is why we charge that. We charge that money. We think it's like unbelievably cheap because of what they're getting, all these years of experience and all of these years worth of proven winning ideas. It's not like when I provide a marketing plan for a business, I lick my finger and go, gee, I hope that works. You can bet your life that it's been done a dozen or 2 dozen or 4 dozen times before, so there's a pretty good chance of it working. But secondly, we wanted to make sure we priced it at a level whereby most businesses can afford to do this. And the businesses that really get their value out of it are the ones that either do it, and the husband and wife rolls their sleeves up and do it, or they put a uni student on for a day or 2 a week, and I can wind them up like the ever-ready bunny and tell them what to do. They go off and do it. That's sometimes a good option.
It works.
But there is still the 15%, Scotty, that unfortunately, no matter how much you give them, no matter how easy it is to join the dots, they sit on their hands, and I just don't. Those people, I feel like ringing up and saying, you know what, you ought to go back and get a job.
Yeah. It's been awesome. I guess the final thing I need to ask you is, what's your irresistible offer
for the guys here? What can we learn more about you and, I guess, enter the world of JD?
Good. Well, thank you very much, mate. Look, I'd give you 2 URLs, and I know that at the end of all these podcasts, you very kindly give the person the opportunity to promote what they've got. The best thing is that if anyone's interested in my programs, if they just go to my website, which is theinstituteofwow.com. So there's no AU, it's just theinstituteofwow.com, and I'm guessing you'd probably put links on these things anyway. And then if you're interested, and you'll go to the products section when you go to that website, and you'll see our various coaching programs there all described. The one that I've been talking about is the Masterclass program, which is the monthly one. And then the other website that they might like to go to, because I have events happening in Sydney and on the Gold Coast monthly. And if you wanted to register for that, the website for that is explodeyoursales.com.au. Now, there is an AU on that one, so it's explodeyoursales.com.au, and that'll give you basically the dates for the next month or 2, the events that we're holding. And these events, by the way, are a full-day event. They go from 9 through to 5:30, and you just get more of this sort of stuff. So basically, it's a full day of this sort of stuff.
Brilliant.
And you've been to one. You've been
I was been there.
So
It was just you went through every little process, like.
That's why I just listened to him, like, does this guy stop at the office? Like, brilliant, great office. I mean, for myself personally, I think office is the hardest thing to do. And I just heard you just rattle off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Oh, well, thank you.
Guys, check him out, enjoy it, and we'll catch you all on the next podcast and speak to you all soon.
Good, mate. All the best.
Let me see, I'll just turn this off.